This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, JoAnn Crone. And today we're talking about something that I have heard from so many women, both my coaching clients and the women in our balance community, about knowing when you really need a break. I think that so many of us as moms, we keep going and going and going and like reacting to every single thing that happens to us, whether it's what our kids need or if it's like somebody just got sick and you have to go take care of that. The dog just got out, you have to go take care of that. That we don't really tune into our own bodies and what our bodies are telling us, and when our bodies are on the verge of physically breaking down. So, we're going to explore all that today. And to help us with that is my guest, Holly Swenson. Holly is an award winning and best selling author and a mom of four. She is all about helping parents bring more joy, balance, and intention into everyday life. Her book, Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow, inspires families to thrive, and her upcoming course, Glow Forward, helps parents lead with presence and purpose. And oh my gosh, Holly has a jaw-dropping story about how her body told her she needed to stop. So with that, let's get on with the show. Welcome, Holly, to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here and dig into this issue that I know affects so many moms.
Hi, JoAnn. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Holly, talking today about that breaking point, that moment that you knew that you needed to take a break. You had 4 young kids. And I think when you tell the story in the book, they were like 1, 3, and then 5-year-old twins. Does that sound right? Right in those age
Yeah,
ranges?
we had 4 under 4.
So you had 4 under 4 and you were hospitalized with meningitis. How did that happen leading up to the point that you knew you needed to go to the hospital?
Yeah, so this was really interesting for me. I don't get sick very often, but this was one of those times where I had been suffering from, like, I had a fever. This was in days prior. So I had actually had some stuff going on. It seemed like it kind of resolved. And then I remember one evening I was getting ready for bed and I actually started noticing these little purple spots on my body. That
Oh,
was really alarming for me,
yeah.
and I told my husband. I think he was actually working late that night. I said, "Something seems off. I don't know what's up," but I always like to try to just, like, correct whatever's going on if I'm under the weather because I'm a nurse and I typically am very healthy.
Well, I mean, you have the ability to know kind of what's more going
Yes.
on with you when you
Yes.
are a nurse. So, I mean,
Yes.
this totally makes sense. And I think many moms do this exact same thing you did with try to, heal themselves because, again, you had 4 under 4.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I remember having a really bad headache also, which was not
Okay.
typical. I went to bed that night, and then I think it was early the next morning that I just said, "Something is so off. I need to go in." And so my husband took me to the hospital, and I was in the emergency department, and they had to do a spinal tap and the Q-tip up the nose and all of the unpleasant stuff that goes along with getting some of these baseline tests done. And it came back that I did have meningitis. And at the time, they didn't know if it was bacterial or viral. So they kept me at the hospital. And, it was just a really intense experience. I was feeling awful. And the other thing that ended up happening was where they did the spinal tap, I was leaking cerebral spinal fluid and I didn't know it at the
Oh.
time. So I had meningitis. And then on top of it, I was actually leaking fluid. So I was just having some really weird symptoms, and they finally realized that that's what was happening. They ended up doing what's called a blood patch to help stop the leak. I finally did start to improve, but it was one of those moments of, like, I remember telling my husband, like, "I don't know if I'm gonna survive this." Like, I felt it was a very out of body, scary experience that, I don't wish on anybody. But it was also, I think you have some of these moments in life that it's almost a wake-up call, you know?
Yeah, and you described, like, lying there thinking that you might be dying. What were the emotions that were going through your head, especially as a mom to 4 little ones?
When you are a parent, mother or father, there's an intensity involved, right? You are their person. You are there helping them to grow and thrive. And so being knocked down like that, where I actually had not been home for, I think I ended up being in the hospital for about 5 days. But having that time away from them, you're worrying about like how everything's going at home, and you're the one that meets their needs. And I have an amazing husband and we had some amazing friends that stepped in during that time as well. We had good support, but also just the wake up call, like, what if I don't go home? What happens then? And so I think for me, it was just an opportunity to drop in more, to be grateful for the health that I had before that happened. But then after I was discharged, I think also having gratitude that my body was able to recover and then go on to continue doing the work that I have to do, as a mother and beyond. And so I think there are just times in life where things hit at a deeper level. There's these moments of wake up call, this moment of clarity. And then after this happened, shortly after this, my stepmother passed. And so it was just this like whirlwind of intensity that was really heavy, all at the same time, really trying to be that person for our children when I felt like I didn't have those reserves to pull from.
Having those 2 events back to back, like, that must have been, like, a double kind of whammy on your system, and how did that affect you having those 2 things? Like, you start looking at your life and seeing like, "Oh my gosh, I need a little break, I need some time away," or what were the thoughts going on in your head?
Well, that's exactly right. So yes, because I had so much going on, I did have that moment of clarity of like, my system can't take any more right now.
Mhm.
And so I had that moment of recognizing what I needed, and I told my husband, I said, "Honey, I need to get away for a couple days just to, like, reset my nervous system because it felt so worn thin," and that led me to finding a wellness retreat down in the desert, and that time away really gave me some tools to start down a more intentional, more conscious path of really making time to take care of myself on a daily basis. And that's something that a lot of parents, especially, don't give themselves, and it is a practice that will change your life if you welcome it in, I will say.
Yeah, that's interesting because going back to that moment when you told your husband that I need a few days away, I don't think many moms feel comfortable saying that. They feel they need to be there and they really hesitate about taking that time away. You mentioned that you felt like your nervous system was fried. How did you notice that? Like, what were the specific things that led you to that decision that the only way I can handle this is going away for a few days?
I physically was still feeling the effects of my time being in the hospital. Then I was also, like, emotionally depleted from losing my stepmother. It was, like, on
Yeah.
all of the levels, like, my reserves just weren't there, and I'm usually a very I'm hardy stock. I can rally, I work hard, I'm very disciplined, I can throw down and, like, be there for everyone else. Like, I'm really good at that. I've been a caregiver, that caregiver mentality since I was a kid, truly, but this was one of those moments where I just literally didn't have anything to give, and I didn't feel great.
Yeah.
Like, I felt kind of triggered, I felt sad, I felt all of the things, and I just knew that something had to shift. And so giving myself that time was one of the greatest gifts I've ever received, truly. And what I've done since then is I've made time every year to get away, either just for a day or just a couple of days, and it's become easier as my kids have gotten older. But that's something that I would share with other parents, that it is such a valuable gift you give yourself. So, and
Oh,
this is
yeah.
mothers and fathers, like, this is something that people just sometimes need to, like, have a pause in their life. It's a lot being a parent.
It is a lot being a parent. My sister has a 1.5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it is the hardest thing in the world to try to convince her to take time away, to knowing that, the time away is gonna help you become a better parent. Like, to all those moms out there who feel like they don't wanna leave their kids because, I mean, in my sister's case, she's afraid something will happen to her kids when she's gone. She also has the thinking, as I know many moms have, that it's only her who could take care of it, and it's not like anyone else, so she has to be the one. So what do you say to, like, those moms thinking right now that
Well, I totally resonate with that, and honestly, I
Yeah.
went through that too, because we started with twins, then a year later we had our 3rd, so it was like having triplets, and then we had our
Uh-huh.
4th a couple years after that. So, I very much was in that camp too of, like, feeling like I couldn't step away for a long time, but when this happened, it was like I didn't really have a choice. It was like I knew I needed something to shift, and so, I think it's truly just is that when you make time, and maybe it's not even getting away for a night. One of the things that I promote is also microdosing your self-care. So it can be small things you do throughout your day where you're nourishing yourself. So if like getting away for a night feels too much or too overwhelming, you can do little things throughout your day to buffer your system so that you don't feel like you're always running on empty.
Oh, and we are going to talk more about that right after this. You know, the holidays are supposed to be joyful, but let's be honest, between travel, gifts, hosting family, and all the last minute school events, it gets real chaotic. And somewhere in all that chaos, my budget used to completely disappear. But not this year because I've got Monarch. Monarch is this amazing all-in-one personal finance tool. It was named the best budgeting app of 2025 by the Wall Street Journal. And once I started using it, I immediately saw how fast my holiday spending was adding up. I had no idea how close I was to blowing my budget already. Monarch connects everything, spending, savings, investments, even your home value in one clean, easy interface. So no spreadsheets, just real control. And right now, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year just for No Guilt Mom listeners. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code NOGUILT. I got a skylight frame for my family, and let me tell you, it is now one of my favorite things in our house. I loaded it with photos from our vacations and photos of when my kids were younger and doing silly things. And my husband adds to it as well with photos from his phone. So it's this huge collaborative effort. And walking by our skylight frame in my kitchen each morning, it always makes me smile. So imagine gifting that same feeling. You can preload a skylight frame with tons of your favorite photos so that when your loved one opens it, it's already filled with memories. It's personal, it's meaningful, and honestly, it's way better than another scented candle. And here's the best part. It's so easy to use. No app, no subscription, no tech stress. You simply send your photos to the frame's email address and they pop up. So right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $20 off their 10-inch frames by going to myskylight.com/NGM. Go to myskylight.com/NGM for $20 off your 10-inch frame. That's myskylight.com/NGM.
DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse, is the one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW has what you need, but more importantly, they have what you didn't even know you wanted. You never know what you'll find at DSW. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
So, Holly, before the break, we were talking a lot about how you need to take that time for self-care. You need to give yourself that time away. When you arrived at Miraval, and before we talk, first of all, can you explain exactly what Miraval is and what you do there?
Yeah, it's an amazing place. So it's a wellness retreat. There's truly something for everyone. So, you can lean on activities like just the basic, like doing like aerobics or water activities or hiking, biking. They have equine. They also have some healers that are world class. So you can go deep into different private sessions. It's an all immersive space for you to get more clarity, to become more intentional in your life if that's what you're looking for. There's meditation, there's yoga, there's truly there's so much that you can do at Miraval. And I will say there's just an energy to this place also. Like there's a lot of places that I visited throughout my life. This was a place that has actually called me back. A lot of times you travel and you go someplace once, but you aren't really called to go there again. This is one of those spaces and places on the earth where I go and come back restored and renewed. So I don't know how to describe it. It's really just a feeling. There's an essence to what Miraval is and what it can help activate within you. That's
Right.
the best way I know how to describe it.
Yeah, being in Arizona, I have heard of Miraval. I haven't been there personally, but I think my only experience with it is I believe the Real Housewives went to Miraval. They didn't name it. They didn't name it, but they were like resort in Arizona and there was like a sound bath treatment they did and
They have that.
somebody
Yes.
yeah, one of the housewives put a bowl on someone else's head and banged it, and that was all a controversy, of course, because that's what that show is. But, so when you arrived at Miraval, and thankfully you did not have any of the Real Housewives in attendance with you, you said you really felt your first real like exhale. So what did like being in that environment reveal to you about what your current environment around like your kids and motherhood had been drowning out?
Well, the biggest thing I noticed was quiet.
Mm.
Because being home with 4 little ones, around the clock, you don't get a lot of quiet per se, and a lot of motion, a lot of, like, always being on guard, always trying to keep everyone safe and fed and making sure they're getting their sleep and their naps, and there's just all of the things. There's not a lot of downtime. So what I found with that trip in particular was just the quiet, feeling like I had space to breathe and go inward in a way that I hadn't for many years. So it was really, really healthy. I really needed that quiet, and that's one of the things too that I will say has been a real game changer for me in my life is partnering with making sure I have time every day to get quiet. And that's hard to carve into your schedule. So, like, for me, even now, like, I wake up in the morning. I try to get up before my family's awake. I do my meditation, do my prayers. I have that quiet time to really set my nervous system on the right track so that when I receive my family, I'm coming at my day from a more grounded, more grateful space.
Now, I know that many moms listening are probably saying that they try to be quiet, but they have this like list of to-dos going through their head that they find it really hard to ignore. Have you ever had to deal with that where you've had like this ongoing list that you just can't relax in that quiet?
So I always have ongoing lists. So yes, I also resonate with that too. Like I literally have lists all over my desk. I mean, I do all of that, all of those things that you're describing. But when I drop into that space, I have done it long enough that I really am able to tune it out and focus. And what I would say
Uh-huh.
too for people who have a real busy, a lot of mind chatter going on, you
Mm.
might try like a guided meditation where you have somebody else leading you through that moment of finding your calm. Because
Yes.
if you're just
I
like
love guided
running
meditations.
laps, yeah, like if you're running laps in your
Yeah.
head and you can't like settle down, or do like a walking meditation, or do something where you're more present with what you're doing and not just like feeling like you're going in circles.
Yeah, I would say definitely ditto on the guided meditation. I have one for sleep that I do off the Peloton app,
Yeah,
and doing the same one over and over again has been so beneficial because sometimes when I don't have it, my body is able to go back into that practice of exactly what the meditation's telling me to do, and I can calm my mind a lot easier than if I'm like, "Okay, I just have to take deep breaths," and then
right,
here I am holding my breath
right.
and criticizing
Hyperventilating.
my yeah. Criticizing myself for like being like, "No, JoAnn, you only held your breath for 3 counts, not 4 counts. Try that again." It doesn't help. So yeah, ditto on the guided meditation. A lot of the moms, like, they might be hearing this right now and think, "Okay, well, you were able to step away, but I just feel so guilty stepping away. I don't even think I could relax or have fun because I feel so guilty." Did you experience any of that guilt, or do you still when you go away? And how do you navigate that?
I think you need to reframe your relationship with guilt
Mm.
because what you focus on becomes your reality, in my opinion. So
Okay,
if
say more about that.
Yeah, well, I just think where your attention goes, that's where your energy flows. So you have to, instead of feeling guilty about what you're doing, right, which is a normal feeling, this is actually a gift you're giving your family. Because when you can refuel and refill your wellspring, you're going to be a better parent. You're going to be a better mother. You're going to be a better father. You're going to hopefully, not end up burnt out or resentful for the role that you're filling as a parent. I think you have to reframe your relationship with what guilt is. Guilt is a hard thing. And this is something I talk about in my book because I think for parents who are working, they feel guilty that they're not with their kids enough. For parents who are staying home, they feel guilty that they're not out in the workforce. For parents who are working part time, they feel like maybe they're failing at both, right? You're not fully engaged at work and you're not fully engaged at home. So I think guilt shows up all over the place. But I think you have to let some of those hooks go as a parent if you want to really thrive.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do because I agree with like what you focus on is what your brain fixates on. And guilt is one of those hard emotions that wherever you are, you're not happy if you're experiencing it. But it can be so hard to really stop the habit because our brains go to guilt out of habit more than choice. And I'm interested, what was the very first change you made once you went home? You're talking about how this was really a gift to yourself and to your kids. What was something different that happened because you took this time away?
Well, like I shared, so meditation became one of my practices. I actually ended up ordering cushions. I ordered some meditation cushions for all of my family. So we actually have, we have 6 people in our family. So I ordered cushions. Most of my kids and, my husband, they don't necessarily meditate with me. That's still typically a solitary like practice. But what I will share is that, like, for some of my kids, they've really held that space for me, and I've said, like, if they do end up waking up earlier, like, they come downstairs. Sometimes they will join me. They'll sit next to me, but I just, oftentimes they wanna do their own thing. I've opened the door for them to find a moment of calm if that serves them, and if it doesn't, that's totally fine. It's not a forced thing, like, we're all sitting down and meditating because usually that becomes not the best space to really find your calm because,
No, it's
kids
like,
are
you better
kids.
meditate. Go
Right.
sit down.
Kids
No.
are kids and they're busy and it's like, I would say, like, don't force that. That was one of the things that I put into place immediately, and that
Mhm.
has stuck with me for years now, and it's been a game changer.
Yeah, and you're the model for your kids when you're doing that, and even if they resist at first, they see you doing it on a repeated basis, and they're more likely to try it out. Since you went to Miraval 10 years ago now, if I'm doing the math
I know,
correctly.
I'm actually losing
Yeah.
track too because 'cause I'm like, I wrote my book a couple years ago, like, where I know, so I can't remember exactly, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you see any of your kids meditating today and taking those practices, like doing it on their own?
So, I don't see them necessarily doing it on their own, but I will say that they are very comfortable, like I said, if they come downstairs and see me, sometimes they will just sit down and they will drop into that space and they aren't busy. And even actually last night, I will share that I put on a meditation for one of my sons who was falling asleep, and so we listened to that
Mm.
for a few minutes just to help him, like, unwind for his day, and, we don't do that every night, but sometimes, like, if I notice one of my kids seems like they need, like, just a little bit more calm as they're heading into sleep time, I might offer that, and sometimes they're in and sometimes they're not. I think it's also honoring your kids' journey. So your journey and their journey are different. And I think you just want to be careful not to like force what you think is like the best thing for them because sometimes you get pushback. So kind of reading the room.
Always pushback from the children if you
Yes.
try to force them.
Yes.
Just being the mom myself to a almost 17-year-old and a 12-year-old. If I suggest they do anything, it's more pushback. But if I'm there as like the model and like just talking about it time to time, they're more likely to get interested. It's like my dad was a teacher all growing up, and he always told me, he's like, don't be a teacher. Don't be a teacher. Don't go do it. And then, of course, I went to go do it for like a part of my education because I think he knew inherently that if you push something on somebody, they won't do it, even
Reverse
though you
psychology, right?
know, yeah, even though you know that may be the best direction for them. So I'm thinking of like the mom listening right now who feels like they cannot take a retreat. I'm thinking of a mom in particular, and she might know when she hears this, but their husband is in school right now. They are handling 5 kids at home, and they just feel exhausted and depleted. What is something little that those moms can do to start getting that kind of wide picture view that you did of how you need your stillness?
Sure. Yeah. I think for those parents who are really feeling worn thin, one thing that comes to mind right away, especially if you have 5 kids and you feel like you're kind of almost single parenting at some level because your significant other is just so busy. One of the things that was awesome for me, like if you like to work out and maybe you don't have support at home to help you like get a break, you could lean on places like the YMCA where you could go. They have like a childcare where you can actually go get an hour to yourself to maybe go get a workout in where you feel like you're taking care of your body. So that would be something you could lean on maybe in your community. There might be obviously lots of different gyms, lots of different things, but I know the YMCA in particular is really great with families and helping support, and that doesn't usually cost any more than just the regular membership. So that's a great thing you can lean on. I would say in terms of at home, start small. Don't bite off more than you can actually chew. So maybe it's just giving yourself 5 minutes a day to breathe, like literally finding a quiet space in the corner or after you drop your kids off at school or creating a very intentional space in your home where you can go to sit to renew who you are as a human being. Make your tea or your coffee. You can put aromatherapy on. You can rub oil on your hands and feet at night before you crawl into bed. Draw a hot bath.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many little things you can do.
We forget about those little things from time to time. One person in our community, she likes to go and sit in her baby's room and journal because it's so calm and he's sleeping in there. And that's like a little thing to do to kind of get out of the day to day. Well, we talked a lot about those little things you could do for yourself. Coming up next, we're going to give you some signs to look for that you might need this break and what to do with some specific tools and strategies from Holly. And we'll do that right after this.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
In Walmart's Who Newville, time was ticking away. Only a few nights left till the big holiday. But last-minute gifters had no need to worry. Walmart Express Delivery got their gifts in a hurry. From Nintendo to Nespresso and Lego flowers, they could check off their lists in as fast as an hour. All of Who Newville, East, West, South, and North, could order gifts up until 5 p.m. on December 24th. So this holiday, just do as the Who's do. With gift delivery this fast, they all gasped. From Walmart, who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
Okay, Holly, we're going to get into some nitty gritty stuff. But first, you had a really dramatic version of a wake up call for you, like being in the hospital, having an unfortunate death in the family. Many moms out there hit their breaking points a little more quietly, less like to the outside world, it's not quite as apparent that they may be going through something huge. What would you say to the mom who minimizes her own exhaustion because it doesn't look big enough?
I think you want to start noticing in your life. So even if it's small, like we are all very intuitive, but we've kind of been taught to not partner with those skills, right? So like I think
Yeah.
you know when something feels off or like I feel overwhelmed or I'm feeling triggered or it's really about starting to notice more in your own life. And so it might be, maybe you're feeling more irritable, you're feeling angry even, you're feeling sad or you're feeling, some of those things that can show up in your life when you are taking care of other people around the clock, because maybe you're not sleeping well enough, you're not eating well enough, you're not able to move the way you need to make you feel healthy.
All things moms do to themselves. Yes.
Or you're surviving on your kids like leftover mac and cheese or,
Right.
just all of those like things that are real that do like sometimes kind of wear you out. So I think it's starting to notice, if you're feeling like something is really off, I would say always reach out to your healthcare provider because sometimes they can, maybe it's hormonally something might be off, you could always
Yeah.
like run tests in that way. I think sometimes hormones aren't really talked about a ton. And so, a lot of people are suffering from depression or anxiety or overwhelm. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on that can be attached to parenting. But I think it's really learning to wake up more in your own life and to notice when something isn't right.
Right. And you mentioned having those emotions of like anger or irritation.
Yes.
If you had to give listeners like a stop signal checklist that the signs that their body is just waving the red flag, what would be on it?
Well, I think those things. So, if you're feeling unusually irritable, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling even rageful, if you're feeling like you can't rally like you normally do, that's an invitation to maybe get some outside support or start
Mhm.
taking steps to remedy what is going on with you. Because when you're parenting from that space, your children feel your stress. And you don't want to be passing that stress on to the next generation because that becomes counterproductive. And children absorb everything. I mean, they truly are little sponges. So it's really a gift. It's not just giving yourself a gift, but it is giving your family a gift when you get to that point of burnout that you need to stop and do something about it.
Absolutely. And like I've been in that point off and on this year. And something that I've realized that helps me is that I always communicate to my kids what is going on in my life if I can, just so that I don't know if everybody's kids are like this, but I know my kids tend to internalize and they think if they see me in a bad mood, they think it's their doing that I'm in a bad mood.
Yes.
So I always try to explain that. And as far as like the emotions go and everything and the anger, that irritation, is there any other signals that you personally watch for now so you never get to the huge breaking point again?
I've kind of walked that path. And so, yes, I think that those are the big ones that I just touched on. But again, I think it's just really knowing who you are. And when something feels totally out in left field, that is it's like such a red flag and invitation. Like, why is this showing up? Why is this happening? And what you spoke about, really modeling that emotional intelligence for your children, I really believe in that as well. And I also believe in the power of apology. So when you misspeak, when you show up in a way that you're not proud of, that you apologize for it. Because we are perfectly imperfect and you're going to misspeak, you're going to misstep a ton over the course of raising your family. And so making that reparation, helping them recognize that we're all human, that we don't always show up the way we want to, is going to really help them in their life as they grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to be totally transparent, this like past year, the thing that really led me to take stock in my life is my blood pressure went up, like uncontrollably up. And that was one of the physical symptoms that showed me I'm like, oh, shoot, I really need to take this seriously now and get this under control. Your body gives you signs.
Well, that's right. The
Mm.
cortisol, that stress hormone, it can impact your mood and your motivation levels. And, if you're under a lot of stress, your body will manifest in different ways. Blood pressure spiking like that, it's really starting to notice and then taking steps in the right direction to help remedy whatever is going on.
Yeah, yeah, and it's sometimes hard steps, things that you don't wanna do, things that maybe you've been avoiding for a really long time. For me personally, it was the stress of my business, and I had to, like, downsize just to make sure that I didn't have that stress of trying to make a payroll anymore, and once I made that decision, everything started to get easier, but, like, the initial decision sometimes to either take a break or confront that thing that you're avoiding, that's a hard one, but it is so worth it in the end.
It absolutely is. Yeah, noticing what you need in your life is going to help you tremendously.
Yeah. What's one grounding practice that you suggest moms can try, like, this week? Just something really tiny that takes, like, less than 2 minutes that might help them start to see a shift.
Yes, put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Close your eyes. Find a, safe space to do that. Close your eyes. Do a body scan. Notice what is going on in your body. Start at your head and work your way down to the tips of your toes. Notice if you're carrying any tightness, any tension, anything that's showing up. And it might be an invitation to like send more love to that area. Or, maybe it's really starting to notice who you are and how you're doing. And then taking steps to take care of the whole you. One of the things I also really talk about is taking care of the mind, body, spirit, and environment. So this is one of those ways that you can start to honor your body kind of as the temple, the vehicle that's going to help carry you through this journey of what it means to be a parent.
Yes, excellent. Well, we like to end every episode with something positive. So, what is something in your life right now, Holly, that you're looking forward to?
Well, I am launching a course in January. It's called Glow
That's
For.
exciting.
So that is something I've been putting a lot of effort and energy into to really be a force for good transformation in the parenting sphere in the world because close to half of our parents report feeling so stressed most days they can't function.
Uh-huh.
So I'm really on a mission to help people thrive in life. So really shifting gears from surviving to thriving. And so that's something I'm very excited. So it's a course and then a community that will also be, growing. That's something that's really a bright spot.
That is super exciting. And tell everybody where they could find your book.
Yes, my book is on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, anywhere you buy your books. It's also available on Audible and anywhere you buy your audiobooks.
Yes. And that book is called Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow. And you can find that wherever books are sold. Thank you so much, Holly, for everything that you have shared. And moms listening, please, please, please take a break. You really deserve it. It is needed. You're going to come back much stronger, much happier, but I know how hard it can be to take that break. So if you just start out with some of the little practices that Holly mentioned in this podcast episode, that is a terrific start. So until next time, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you. I'll talk to you later. If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You could also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.